6:36. Good morning to you, watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie.
And it's time to go through the papers now, and joining us this morning is broadcaster Liz Kershaw and the senior reporter at the newspaper, Benjamin Butterworth. Good morning to you both. Liz, let's start with you, shall we? The story in the Telegraph about banks reporting the second largest jump in mortgage defaults since the financial crisis.
Yeah, I mean, the financial crisis and the cost of living crisis does hit you very evidently in the face in the supermarkets, as Benjamin was talking about last time, price of eggs, price of milk. But behind closed doors, there must be so much suffering going on because of increases in monthly mortgage payments. And this, in the Times, reports that banks have reported the second largest jump in mortgage defaults since the financial crisis. So in 2009 spring, the number of people defaulting is 60.7%. I mean, it was terrifying at the time.
60%?
Yeah. And
of all mortgage holders?
Apart from early 2021, when Britain was in the depths of lockdown and the housing market closed, the figure was last higher during the spring of 2009 when it was 60.7%.
So what is it now?
11 point something percent at the moment. But
that's still high, though,
yeah,
isn't it? 11%.
I mean, that's not just people secretly crying into their cornflakes and saying, "Am I going to pay this?" This is default where they've actually
not paid,
and the bank has come down on them. But I've got a mortgage which was since 2000 when the interest rates, it was under 200 quid a month, and it's now nearly 600 quid a month. Every month I seem to get a letter saying we've put on another.
Oh yes,
they always put on more than the bank. Anyway, so for instance, if you've got a £200,000 mortgage, paying £1,169 typically. A £200,000 mortgage isn't a big mortgage, is it?
No.
And yet, that's the going rate. And it says we don't know the full extent of this yet because these figures and people paying their monthly payments and defaulting, it doesn't take into account yet the impact of the crash of Silicon Valley Bank, Credit Suisse and UBS. I don't know how that affects it, but anyway, it's terrible.
Interesting.
The personal suffering and potentially tragedy.
I'll tell you what though, if you are really struggling to pay your mortgage, speak to your mortgage company, whoever you've got your mortgage with. Speak to them. Don't just not pay.
Don't
speak
put your head
to them.
in the sand.
No, because if you speak to them, they can actually do something which doesn't then negatively affect you as much.
Or the Citizens Advice Bureau are mobbed, but it's my friends she volunteer for them, thoroughly trained to give advice and somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
But aren't the banks making loads more money out of people's misery? Because the Bank of England puts the rates up, and then the private banks like Barclays, etc., put their rates up in line with that. They're actually making a lot more money out of it.
I don't know if it works like that.
Or does it cost them more money?
Because it costs them more money to borrow it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they borrow it and then give it to us, don't they? I don't think it's quite as straightforward as them just making more money.
No. Benjamin, should we look at the eye? And this is a new poll that says Labour's lead over the Tories is shrinking.
And actually, I was just about to make a link between that story because, very smooth. Because when Liz Truss was Prime Minister, that had a massive effect on these things, and that's why loads of people saw £500 a month added to their mortgage. And that put the Labour Party with a massive lead ever since then. And I think it's one of the reasons it'll be really hard for the Tories to win the next election, which is what the Eye is talking about. Because, when there's no money left in the bank, they're not likely to vote for the people that have been in power. But the Eye reports a new big poll out, an average of polls, that puts Labour on 44% and the Tories on 30%. So still a Labour lead.
That's a big jump up for the Tories, though.
It's a big jump. So it had been 25%, 30% back in sort of October last year, and this has now halved compared to the peak of the lead. Now those are kind of astronomical figures that we literally never seen in modern polling. But the suggestion is that Labour's shoe-in is not so clear now. This would point the way to a hung Parliament with Keir Starmer most likely as Prime Minister.
Well, indeed, because if he had to he said he wouldn't ally up with the SNP, but he would with the Lib Dems, wouldn't he? The Lib Dems aren't going to go back to the Tories.
I mean, the Labour leader said that there won't be a coalition. I think recent history suggests they are quite toxic. But there is another factor, you mentioned it, the SNP, because they're having this implosion at the moment that shows no sign of stopping, that actually is equivalent to Labour needing 3 points less on its national lead in order to be in the same position, because they're expected to get maybe 15 more MPs from Scotland. And so I think it's a very interesting time. But you look at this week, you look at the attack ads that Labour put out on Rishi Sunak that have been so controversial.
What do you make of those? As someone more to the left, should we say?
Well, once upon a time, I was chair of the Labour Party's youth wing, so, I've got a background in that stuff. I think the idea of people being, particularly conservative politicians, being up in arms about it is pretty hypocritical, because, you had Suella Braverman saying there's 100 million refugees that could turn up. You had Nigel Farage saying there's 70 million Turkish people that could come when we had the Brexit referendum. I think this type of politics has been around for quite a long time.
It's different when it's a personal attack like that, though, isn't it?
But, I mean, Rishi Sunak got up at the dispatch box a couple of weeks ago and said Keir Starmer is on the side of people smugglers. Now, I don't think any reasonable person thinks that the potential Prime Minister is supporting people smugglers, but they might disagree with his view on dealing with the small boats, if I may use the phrase. So I think politics is getting pretty nasty, and I read a thing, maybe it was in yesterday's Times, that the next election is going to be the nastiest we have ever had. I think there's a sort of an Americanization of how political parties go about their campaigns, and it's become obsessed with the people at the top, so whether it's Rishi Sunak or Keir Starmer, rather than the party as a whole. And I think it's going to be personal, very personal.
But splitting the Labour Party, I mean, the top members of the Labour Party are distancing themselves from these ads. They don't want anything to do with it.
Well, Angela Rayner said it served a purpose, but she wouldn't go further than endorsing it. Angela Rayner being the Labour deputy leader. Yvette Cooper, who's the Shadow Home Secretary, and they were adverts about immigration issues and dealing with crime. She wouldn't endorse them. So, you wonder whether it's backfired on the Labour Party, but I think they're trying to stop Rishi Sunak becoming popular before he does, because he's certainly on the rebound, I think he is following something between a John Major and a Gordon Brown strategy. He wants to be the quiet, reliable man that John Major was.
Prudent!
Exactly. That's Liz's Tourette's over there. And then, he's apparently been looking at what Gordon Brown did, because Labour didn't do nearly as badly as they expected in 2010, even though they lost, because they looked like they were just getting on with the job. So it's interesting.
Very, very interesting.
Let's talk about fashion, Liz, in the Telegraph. And Mary Quant, I mean, I've never seen you in a skirt below mid-thigh. to be fair, you like a sort of mini skirt, don't you?
I do like a mini skirt because I've got the legs, to be honest.
Well, why not?
But there's a big splash in the Telegraph on Mary Quant. It's on the front pages of every paper. But she did really change the way people dressed. I mean, when I was very young, sort of pre-primary school, people that were already teenagers in the family, they didn't dress in fab gear. There were no boutiques.
A-line skirts.
It was like nice straight below the knee skirts, a cardigan. And there were no shops came along then, like they did come along, Miss Selfridge and Chelsea Girl and all that stuff. By the time I was a teenager, you could go into Manchester and walk up Market Street, and all the shops were there with music pounding out. And Mary Quant started that really with her boutique in the King's Road. And she did change the way people do. I mean, look at the tights. I remember before tights, people in American tan stockings, and then she brought in coloured tights. We have her to thank for that. And yeah, she just and plastic shoes, patent shoes. She just and the haircuts and everything, and the big daisy motifs.
Did change the world
everything.
A little bit. Yeah.
So you didn't have to be dressed if you were at one time. If you were 16, 36, or 66. The clothes were more or less the same, and she really revolutionised.
Yeah.
And the stuff that's in the paper today, I mean, these things that she designed then, I have things that are very similar now.
Well, it's all coming back a bit now, and like the baby doll dresses and things are sort of.
Well, I wouldn't wear one of those. But you can. And the best bit is if you go in a charity shop and you find a nice crimpling frock that's obviously from the 60s for a £5. That's so exciting.
Yeah. It is amazing, though. I mean, she's changed the world. If you think back, you know, in the 60s, it was, as you say, fashion was for housewives or for aristocracy and just for.
Well, it was haute couture. It wasn't, you know, you bought something and you kept. Women had about 3 frocks and they kept them for years. And
now we're free to what we like. It's amazing.
Ellie's like that now, aren't you?
I am.
All the labels on the back of hers. Not joking. Not joking. Let's just have a quick look at the Mail, Benjamin, and snoring.
Yeah,
just
1
briefly.
in 10 people say that they've considered leaving their partner because of their snoring.
They're not in love then, are they?
Well, I mean, it's it's pretty
Basically.
revealing that it says that 16% of people describe their partner as snoring like a pig, which isn't terribly flattering. And it's got a big thing about that. The other things that are breaking up relationships from the bedroom are elbowing the other half, kicking them, coughing too loudly. If I had a partner, that would probably be me right now. Turning on their side, holding their nose. What does that mean?
I don't know.
But so snoring is one of the big problems.
Yeah, so
they're saying people should get it sorted out.
Yeah, you're not in love. If you can leave over that, then you're not in love with
Well,
it.
can't you just go into the spare bedroom and still love somebody? I mean, the aristocracy and the dead rich, they're not daft. They can sleep in separate bedrooms and have visitation.
Oh, where's the fun in that?
I was going to say, I hate sharing a bed. I really do, regardless of love.
Oh.
Don't come near me.
You're all weird. Thank you very much indeed. Been good to see you this morning.